Hi guys, welcome back to the Bull Talk with BJ podcast.
Guess what, motherfucker?
Some of the information you are about to hear, some may find disturbing.
I don't know who gave them this or who gave them the clearance. On the crotch.
Oh my
Right
lord.
there.
Can we Google that?
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then I fucking stumbled down a dark hole and I love it.
Great cake parties. If I'm going to believe anybody's bullshit, I'm going to believe mine.
It sounds not politically correct, but
You two motherfuckers need Jesus.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. I am Ho. With me, as always, is my dad, Big Jim.
How you
and
doing?
Very, very special guest, Brennan. And I know I'm going to butcher your last name, Belliveau.
Hey man,
Belliveau?
that's a French way to say it. I love it.
Yes.
Belliveau or Belliveau. Yeah.
Yes, I got it.
That's bonus points, man. Quebec will be happy for you right now. There we go.
Thank you very much, man. So you are straight from the motherland of Canada.
Yes, sir.
How is it from Canada coming here to the States, specifically to California?
Man, it's been a bit of a journey. I moved down in November on a one-way ticket from San Francisco. When I moved down here, actually not knowing a single person in the entire country. So I came specifically for work. And no one told me that about this COVID pandemic and all these things that were going to happen. They all said that California is a lot of fun, a lot of concerts, sporting events, hikes, this and that too. But I'll tell you what, man, it hasn't been as advertised so far. So I'm excited for that stuff to settle down and to actually get to enjoy everything. But all joking aside, it's been a wonderful journey. And there's a lot of similarities between the countries, but there's a lot of cool differences too. So it's been, exciting and new at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's
But
cool,
I mean,
man.
for someone who works in the type of environment you do, you kind of need that big escape that California offers. You can't carry
100%.
that at home. You can't carry
No.
that at all. And, I personally want to thank folks in your industry. I spent some time in the hospital with cancer issue, heart issue, bacterial issue, about 2.5 months off and on. And the nurses probably got me through it. The doctors were great. The surgeons were phenomenal, but the nurses probably grounded me more than anything before I lost my shit from being in there. So kudos to you, and I applaud you for taking on your that challenging line of work.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's definitely it's rewarding and challenging at the same time too. So that's kind of the cool thing about it is you walk in those doors and you never know exactly what's going to happen every day.
So with that being said, was nursing your childhood dream, or did you have other jobs or jobs that wanted to do?
I had a lot of different jobs. I actually love political sciences and economics. So I actually took 2 years of poli-sci in university before I went into nursing. And I've actually kind of kept that up. So back home in Canada, I actually sat in on a board called the Institute of Health Economics. So in Canada, with the public healthcare system, obviously you have a limited amount of money to spread in such a way that you're trying to reach as many different people as possible. So you're sitting with health economists, government sector workers and other healthcare workers and trying to make these decisions of how to best reach improving the healthcare system, again, with as limited funding as possible too. So that's been one way I've been able to kind of link healthcare with economics and political sciences. And actually in the last federal election, I helped with a campaign in Canada. We actually won our riding. We didn't win the election, but we did win our local riding too. So I'm 1 for 1 for elections. So if you guys ever decide to run for politics, you guys know who to go to for your campaign.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I'm honestly, I'm really excited for this episode, and I forgot to introduce, not you, I already did that, but as far as what you do, so can you explain to some of the folks that are listening and or watching, what is it that you actually do?
Yeah, man. So I am a registered nurse, originally from Canada. I've worked for 5 years on a pediatric heart and liver transplant team. And I've also worked for a couple of years in forensic psychiatry. And now I'm actually down here working in the Bay Area, working with a cardiology and heart and lung transplant team now too, at one of the children's hospitals. So I started actually as a travel nurse, which is really cool. You get a chance to work these 13-week assignments, go see the country, do everything that you want to do. And I quickly got to San Francisco and I realized that this was the green grass. It wasn't going to get better than what the Bay Area had to offer. So
Yeah.
I ended up taking a permanent position quite quickly, but no, I love it, man. It's been like a dream come true. So it's been,
That's cool,
it's been
man.
a lot of fun. Yeah.
So you're not afraid of a challenge from a day-to-day basis, right? With that
No,
career
no.
path.
No, not now. Not now. I'll tell you what, working in forensic psychiatry, like that was a challenge. I mean, these guys, you know, you're not there for like petty theft. You're there for like gruesome murders.
Yeah.
And you are like acutely sick, you know, and so it takes usually like 6 to 8 weeks to titrate your, you know, antipsychotics if they start to work. So being in that environment, like a locked federal institution with a lot of these guys who had just killed someone, they want to kill you too. So that was the scariest part of my career as a nurse anyways. And I'll tell you what, like we had the SWAT team that had to come out twice because when the police showed up, they said it was too dangerous for them.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah, go ahead.
So-
No, go ahead. Go
so
ahead.
what drives you to do that? I mean, that alone, just as a simpleton, you know, I've seen unfortunate cases where there's accidents or
Mhm.
murders or people
Mhm.
who've been shot and slaughtered. And like you said, you can't stomach it. You're like, God damn, that could have been somebody, that could have been my relative, my friend, anything like that. So how do you go from wanting to take care of pediatric children, per se, and then going into this hostile environment, get the rush, and then go home and be like, fuck, my day's over? What do you do to
Yeah.
unwind?
Dude, it was scary as shit sometimes, man. Like I loved it. I loved helping people out and seeing people get better. But sometimes it was just like, you know, you couldn't believe what you saw. You couldn't believe what you were hearing. And so I actually found the more acute psychiatry was, the easier it was to work with because, you know, the symptoms were so glaring. Whereas when you start working with people, and I did work in adolescent psychiatry as well too, it was more, you know, anxiety, depression, things like that. I actually find that a little bit more challenging to work through than, you know, some of these more significant or severe symptoms. But yeah, I'll tell you what, like some days it was a little bit, you learned very quickly what you could and couldn't say and how to act. You had your head kind of on a swivel at all times too. But yeah, it was dangerous. I know one of the first advice, one of the best pieces of advice that someone actually gave me was, you know, when you meet someone, don't look at their index of crime right away, because if you do that and you associate that person with the crime they committed, it's going to be very hard to like take away that bias or that whatever mindset you have going into it. Like try and get to know them for who they are, right? It's not them that committed the crime. It's the mental illness that, you know, had caused the crime to happen, right? But, you know, a lot of these people are good people. They just were very unwell when these things happen. So that was one of the you know, the most important things that I would try and do as well too. And then you'd go back and look at the crime, like, oh, fuck, this guy, you know, like stabbed this dude 60 times and, you know, cut whatever body parts off. And you're like, okay, shit. All right. Well, you know, let's get to work here. Let's try and help this guy get as you know, as well as he can, you know, and that was rewarding. Seeing someone go from like point A where they were very sick all the way to being like, you know, and it takes years. Sometimes it's 10, 15, 20, 30, 40. I know people that were, you know, in the one hospital for over 50 years. Some people, you know, it's a challenge. And once you become institutionalized, it's almost very difficult to, you know, a lot of people don't even want to go back out to society because it's, you know, they've now, this is their new life. It's too scary out there. Right.
It's
you
like
know,
a
so
veteran prisoner. They're just institutionalized.
Yeah. So, but you know what? It was rewarding and challenging, and yeah, it was heavy. You know, sometimes we had to, you know, when you get someone who is like 6'5" and like they're like not insightful and they're aggressive and they want to cause some, you know, some havoc or they're just having this crisis moment, you know, sometimes it would take like 10, 15 of us to kind of be able to, you know, safely take someone down and stuff. So sometimes those were a little bit of challenging situations. A lot of people I knew ended up getting like significantly hurt. Like a lot of people's hair got pulled out of their head, like, you know, shoulders, like, you know, torn apart. Like a lot of people end up being on like disability for a long time. So I did that for 2 years. I loved it. I've got nothing but amazing things to say about the profession. I feel like really good about, you know, the work in psychiatry. I think it's so important. But for me, 2 years was good. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go work with little babies now. This is where they can't try and you know, hurt me or anything like that. It was a little bit different, but yeah, it was good.
with that the transition from adult to children, I think that you were trying to get to earlier. What is that like? Like, I know you see crazy things with adults. Someone's been hurt, someone, arm dislocated, but when it goes to a child, it's a different feeling. My daughter right now, she just cut her finger right now, helping me cut food, and it's nothing major. It's just little cut, but I was like, oh geez, your finger.
Yeah.
So going from a full grown adult to a child, what is that like? How does that play on your psyche?
Yeah, I mean, it's different. I don't have kids myself, but I find that I'm very protective over the kids, at the hospital too. So even when we're orientating new staff or we've got students or preceptor students, like I find like I'm very protective, right? Like their safety is number one. Obviously it's a learning environment. You want people to obviously continue and grow. Just like when I was a student, I needed people to mentor me and give me those opportunities. And I try and do the same thing for them. But at the end of the day, the safety of those kids is number one. So I can't under no circumstances, allow anyone to put any of those kids at harm. But yeah, it's a completely different population to work with, and not only are you working with the kids, but you're also working with those families as well. So,
right.
I mean, you being a dad, you can imagine like if you had your kid in the hospital and there's, 5 or 6 lines coming out of them and they just had a big, incision or whatever,
Well,
you're just like,
the best person to ask that question is actually him. When I was diagnosed with that type 1 juvenile diabetes at 6 years old?
7
years old. And
yeah, we like you said, you recognize them one day. We're going swimming at the place we were living and hanging out and barbecuing, and then within 12 hours later, he's laid out on the floor. Within 36 hours, he's in ICU, critical condition with an intubator. It's like
with an intubator.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He at the time, well, obviously we didn't know diabetes type 1 isn't in our family. Jim is actually the host, if you will, continuous from this point. Him and his younger brother both have type 1.
Yeah.
And so
we're special.
just a little.
That's one word, yeah.
Just a little. And oh man, you got me twisted. I forgot what I was saying.
You were talking about me being in the ICU.
Yeah, well, we didn't see the transition. Yeah, that too. That's coming next. That's coming. We'll save the embarrassment for later.
Yeah.
But anyway, the transition, we saw him. We just thought he was going through a growing spurt because he had lost a bunch of weight. Jim was always chubby. Hit this growing spurt, and then he just got super skinny. And the lethargic came, and the thirsty, and then the urination, and then boom. It was like, called my wife, babe, Jim has diabetes. And we were both talking like we were, discussing dinner. Like it just didn't click until probably sometimes we still can't believe it. We haven't managed the conditions. He obviously is, the one that has to live with it like that. But it's an unfortunate thing. It's like people talk about cancer and how devastating that can be, and it is. But, there is no eradicating it. There's no way of there's managing it with pumps and CGMs. And, I mean, there's always growth in this field, and thanks to science, obviously. So it's relieving, but yeah, going through the process and seeing your child. Now, that wasn't the first time you were sick. When you were 3 months old, you were in the hospital for a week for having, your white blood cell count was way out of control, and that was the first time I actually saw, which was you. And then I don't want to, I almost said neighbors, but the patients next to you, it was a child ICU ward. And, I knew we were going to be leaving at some point, and what the nurses and the doctors were going to do to teach us how to take care of you for that condition or whatever it was. It's some sort of an infection. But there was a little girl that was next to you, and she had been in that facility for 2 years. She was 9 years old, cute, blonde head, full of life, but she was quadriplegic. And when I saw her and just listening to her talk, it didn't affect her.
Yeah.
Her condition. So I was like, you know what? This little girl is this, and this. This little guy is going to be all right. And a lot of it was what folks like you taught us. They gave us that reassurance. They gave us, and then again, when he was 7 and we had all the specialists at the Phoenix Children's Hospital teaching us, you know, again, it's not easy to see your child go through that, but with the education and the constant education, it's more reassuring. You know, I'm a congestive heart failure patient and I have an ICD implant. So it's constantly learning my condition, because I could take a turn for the worse all the time. So,
yeah, no, 100%. I think, you know, one of the big things that you kind of said there that just resonated with me is, you know, that it's, when you see like maybe another child or someone else who's going through a situation like that patient who was a quadriplegic, like you said, you know, puts things in perspective quite quickly. Like when you think that something is maybe going really, you know, terrible, wrong in your life, you know, then you see something like that. Like I remember my first time working on a pediatric ward, and I worked with a lot of kids with cerebral palsy, you know, and there's 5 different, you know, kind of, I guess, levels of it. But a lot of these kids range from needing crutches to, you know, basically being like total care. But some of the happiest kids, like the happiest kids you'd ever meet, like never complain about anything. And I'm like, fuck, like, I think I got problems. Like it just changed my perspective on everything. You know, I was like, I had a whole new sense of like appreciation and gratitude and stuff like that. And, you know, the things I complained about, I think I quickly was like, no, those are problems. You know, I mean, like every day above ground is a good day. You know what I mean? And I think for you, I mean, for diabetes, for instance, too, it's kind of like, you know, I had one parent describe who needed, you know, their kid had a congenital heart defect as well. And they said it was like, we were told we were going to go, you know, on a vacation to New York, but we ended up in, you know, South Carolina instead. Like you're going on this journey. It's just not the one that you expected, but you know, it's going to be something like that. But I'll tell you what, man, I've worked with a lot of, you know, type 1 diabetics, like when they first come in the hospital, when they're, you know, deemed like a DKA and they've got like the insulin, the potassium, you know, and the, you know, glucose and everything, like, and doing like every hour we're doing like different, you know, ketone checks and blood work checks and adjusting rates and trying to convert you from IV insulin over to subcutaneous injections. And that's a long, like, you know, 12, 24 hours for kids, for parents, for everyone, not knowing what's going to happen. And I mean, all the symptoms you kind of described there too, with changes with, you know, even going to the bathroom or how thirsty you might be or your energy level, like those are scary things. Right. And so, and things you don't expect. I mean, you got a healthy 6-year-old, you know, the white blood cell count, one thing, but a healthy 6-year-old. And then all of a sudden, like, boom, like now you got something that's going to, you know, you're going to have to work through for the rest of your life. Like it's, you know, you just don't, a lot of people, you don't see it coming. You don't expect it. Right. So, you know, I mean, for a lot of people too, I've asked parents as well. And, you know, what can nurses do to really kind of help you during, you know, those times of getting that kind of news or those transitions? Because I feel like, you know, for the most part, there's such a good focus on the kids. And now there's a really good emphasis on like the whole family-centered care approach. But I still feel like more needs to be done with like treating the family as a unit and like, okay, like how's mom doing? How's dad doing? How are the siblings doing? Like, what can we do to help them as well too? It's, you know, when you walk in the room, you don't just have one patient, you might have 4 or 5. Like we have to address everyone's needs and make sure that, you know, they're all doing good too. Right. So, you know, because it's challenging.
You know, I can only imagine what dad, what you were going through, and even what mom at the time, what she was going through when I was
it's
in
probably
the hospital.
Like, fuck, this kid's going to cost me another medical bill. The kid's only 6 years old. Like,
it ain't stopped yet, man.
Man. What's up, everybody? This is Bo from Bo Talks with Big Jim. Right now, I'm going to be doing a ad sponsorship right in the middle of this video, so I do apologize if I'm cutting in. However, I do got to say something really quick. Please go follow Moonoz Disenoz on Instagram. Send him the words Bo Talks with Big Jim, and he will send you 2 $3 stickers for $5. Now, I bet you're wondering, well, what do they look like? What is the whole spiel of this about? Well, I'm going to tell you. He has amazing original prints, all the way from Frida Kahlo with a skull version of that, a moon with a skull in it. It's honestly, it's one of the best arts that I've ever seen. Like, he's really, really good. But not only does he do his own original prints, he also does little Disney twists. So if you are a Hydro Flask person, or in my case, a Hydro Peak person, which, by the way, they are not a sponsor of this podcast, but if they would like to be, we are all for it. Thanks, Hydro Peak. And by the way, I did give that thing a test. It does hold a 6-pack of beer. Just in case anybody's wondering, it works and it keeps everything cool. Anyways, going back to Moonoz Disenoz, those are his prints. He custom made the poison apple. He custom made the mirror, the evil queen mirror. Go check him out. Like I said, shoot him a DM on Instagram, Botox with Big Jim, and you will get 2 $3 stickers for $5 today. And he also has pins. So if you're a Disney fan and you go to Disney and you have pins, hit him up. $12. They are worth it. Trust me. Peace.
It's a continuous, like you were referring to. How do we help these families? It's not just the immediate mom and dad, or mom and mom, or dad and dad. It's the brothers. It's the cousins. It's the grandmothers. It's everybody that, you may be in your immediate family within a 10-mile radius of your neighborhood, or thousands of miles away. His younger brother right now is with his grandmother out in Modesto, and he's a little lax. He's 14 and he's into girls right now and fashion and all kinds of stuff. Well, grandma's on pins and needles. Hey, he's not doing this. Hey, he's eating this. Or she'll send me a picture of him eating a big bowl of ice cream. I'm like, Mom, okay, I understand what we taught you years ago, but there's things that he can enjoy. He gets away from us. Go ahead. I'll let you go.
Yeah, no. I at 14 too. If you think that you're going to tell a 14-year-old what he can and can't do, like, that is a challenging thing.
Yeah, good
luck.
I'll
tell you a quick. Oh, man, so my mom's from Italy, right? So like, Italian parents are like very, very proper. And I remember I was 13 years old and I was riding my bike and had no business doing any bike jumps or anything like that, but went off a bike jump and I went home. I cracked my helmet. I went home. I was like, Mom, like, I hit my head. I cracked my helmet. I need a helmet. Oh my God, how'd you do that? Oh, you're doing bike jumps. She said, promise me you'll never go on another bike jump again. I said, Mom, I promise I'm never go on another bike jump again. The next week, we made this like sick bike jump, like this huge lip, flew over that thing. And the first point of contact, I had like 40 pounds of books in my backpack. So I didn't hold the handlebars enough.
Jeez.
I know, so stupid. I know, dude, I know. So I flew over the thing and I smoked my shoulder. And when I got up, I could feel my bones clicking like this, and my collarbone like snapped, and I knew something was wrong. And so so this is where the Italian parent thing comes out. So my buddies helped me like take my bike to a local recreation facility, and I called my mom. I was like, Mom, like, I got hurt. She's like, oh my God, Brennan, like, what's wrong? Are you okay? I was like, I was biking, and she, like, I couldn't even get another word. She's like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. She's like, you find your own fucking way to the hospital. And then click. I was 13 years old, the middle of nowhere, at this recreation facility. Some stranger who worked there ended up giving me a ride and spent the day with me at the clinic and confirmed, like, okay, yeah, like, my collarbone's destroyed. I'm going home in a sling. My buddies took my bike home. I was like, she's gonna feel so bad now, because how could she do this to a 13-year-old kid? I went home and it was like even worse, just like, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh man. Yeah. So I learned very quickly, like, man, if a teenager wants to do something, like, they got to learn from their own mistakes, right? If he ends up having like a not feeling well from his sugar spiking, like, that's the only way the guy's going to learn. You can give him the advice, you can give him the tips, but at the end of the day, that's just how it is, and that's part of your frontal lobe of your brain is the last part to fully develop your decision-making ability. I'm sure we all felt like we were Superman for a long time, and
absolutely.
But you know what I'm saying? So
same thing, because growing up, not like I'm that old, I just turned 29, but growing up, like Dad, you said, back then it was very, I wouldn't even say new, but the way the teaching was very new compared to now. I mean, Dad, you're doing everything with him, whether it's online, text message, like, everything is just so much better, so much quicker, so much faster, and you're able to obtain all that information so much better. And then, back then, and I think I even mentioned it when I was a kid, I was just like, this sucks. like, I really don't want to be a diabetic. This sucks.
Yeah, it's
Obviously, I
constant
had to grow
still.
with it.
It's a repeat. Actually, you were easy. This little shit is more challenging for sure. But like, that story, bad decisions make great stories. So I think we all have plenty of them, whether we have an onset situation or we were just dumbass kids having fun. Because
I'll tell you,
nobody built.
I never went on another bike jump again after that. Like, that's how I learned.
I'm
learn.
hard-headed.
Of course.
Yeah,
of course.
I'm hard-headed. I fell off of a what was that damn thing? I went to go look at a tiny horse at a carnival, and I ended up breaking my wrist because I didn't pay a quarter. I didn't want to pay a quarter, and I thought I learned my lesson, and sure enough, I didn't. I ended up breaking the other wrist, this one. So,
oh man,
yeah,
not good for a diabetic.
Not good. Yeah, no, it's a long healing process. All right, so kind of
doesn't help either, son.
Hey, that does help.
Okay,
that does help. It's very good. It's therapeutic. Honestly, man, that's probably one of the best workouts I've ever done in my entire life is jiu-jitsu, and I would highly recommend it to whoever, even you. I know it's difficult, with your heart and stuff and moving around and stuff, but just a little bit of movements to get your heart going, to be able to breathe.
I'm 50 years old. I weigh 270 pounds. Getting out of bed sometimes is a fucking challenge. You think I want to wrestle with a grown-ass man? No.
Hey,
well, it just sounds like to me in the red corner, we got a 50-year-old, 270. That sounds like a challenge to me.
Let's go.
Nah. I'll take on Mila before I take on anybody else.
Oh, thank you.
She's much of a challenge.
So, kind of going to the next question and a little more serious note. Being as a nurse in the pediatric unit, especially with today's age, right? The biggest thing, obviously, to talk about is COVID-19. How often, if ever, have you came into contact with patients, with that, yeah? So I'll leave it at that. Coming from, like you said earlier, coming from Canada, not being told about this whole COVID thing, what is the shock of it as being a nurse so far?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, if you were to look at the numbers between the two countries right now, Canada is 1/10 of the population, and it's the second biggest country in the world. So, and it's cold as hell. So in the wintertime, when this whole thing was starting, they've been social distancing for 6 months. That's what we do for 6 months of the year. It's like we hibernate, so they handled it well from the beginning because they didn't have to change a thing.
Yeah.
Right now, I think in Canada, they have 6,000 active cases in the whole country, 6,000. Yeah. I think there's 2 million in the US, and the population's 10 times the size. So, I mean, if you were to look at it even just relative, it should be, 6,000 in Canada and 60,000 in the US. Like it's growing so rapidly right now, that it is challenging, and there's a lot of different factors that go into it. Obviously, when you do more testing, you're going to catch more positive cases. But the other thing too is that, you still have to explain why a lot of ICUs in the country are overflowing, right? Regardless of who you test, sick people are still going to be sick and need to go to the hospital, right? So there's a lot of different factors that go into it, but there's a big difference, I think, just with that. I mean, it is a little bit challenging. It's such a transient country too, and a lot of people are in and out, especially here in California, right?
Oh,
you've got LA, you've got the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, and you got people coming over from all over the world, right? It's fantastic when everyone's healthy, and in the time of a pandemic, things are going to spread like wildfire. And I think in California, I think we had our 500,000 case, earlier this week and stuff too, which is quite alarming, and hopefully that we're able to get a good grip on it. But speaking to what's going on in the healthcare system, we've been very fortunate that COVID hasn't seemed to have had, I guess, as much of an effect on kids as it has with adults. Adults seem to be the ones who are getting affected the most, especially that I think who is testing positive the most is that young 20s to kind of late 40s. And I know it's a very large group, but that seems to be the group that's making up the most cases. And there still are kids getting COVID as well, you know, and I've been reading a few stories around obviously California and other parts of the country and stuff like that too. And, you know, right now I think we've done such a great job with testing as much as we can. And, you know, before almost any procedure, we're sending off rapid swabs and making sure that we're doing everything we can to either catch it or prevent the spread of it as quickly as possible. And, you know, a lot of hospitals have implemented having designated units. So rather than having COVID potential patients go absolutely anywhere, you know, they've designated 1 or 2 units where that's exactly where they're going to go. So we're not having the staff, you know, that are taking care of these kids going everywhere, and we're not having these kids go everywhere where, you know, it could just spread even more too. So, you know, it is a little bit challenging. You know, was the other day, you know, we had a case too where we had a teenager who was symptomatic, and we had to, you know, we took the patient because it fell under our patient demographic, and you know, first thing in the morning, I hear code blue alarm from this room, and I know who the nurse is, and he's just a fantastic nurse. So I knew as soon as I saw the alarm go off and it read code blue, I knew right there it was no accident that button was pressed. So
Yeah.
raced over, was the first one there, and you know, and we're very fortunate with the PPE that we get, you know. So if we're not caring for COVID positive patients, you know, we're wearing surgical masks, and we're wearing a face shield and gloves and everything like that too, which is fantastic. You know, being very well supported like that. But, you know, because this was a potential, you know, COVID patient, results had not come back yet. You know, I'm at the door there too, and I'm making a split second decision, like, okay, like my buddy's in this room alone right now. Obviously, he's got the N95 because he's the one caring for this patient, but I have to make a decision. Do I quickly run up to the front and go grab an N95, or do I jump in there and start doing compressions? And for me, it was like, okay, I gotta, you know, it's like my duty. I gotta try and keep this kid alive, right? So I jumped in there right away. I asked for another staff. I said, hey, can you go grab me an N95? We got to start CPR right here too. And jumped on compressions and stuck with it from start to finish, and actually got the kid back within 2 minutes. And, you know, someone brought me a mask, which was awesome. But I mean, the biggest thing was that he came back quite quickly, but just kind of speaks to some of the decisions that maybe frontliners are having to make is, you know, you're having to make sometimes these decisions about, you know, obviously the equipment, everything we need is always there, you know, but I just felt like that in the moment, it was the right thing to do, of just jump in there quickly, try and get someone else to get me the mask, and then kind of go from there. But, you know, thankfully the swab ended up coming back negative. But for the rest of the day, I was kind of, you know, freaking out myself. And, you know, it's kind of like this moment where, you know, you're so happy that first and foremost, the biggest thing is, you know, brought the kid back, but you can't help but think like, okay, you know, did I potentially get, you know, exposed to COVID here? And you know, my biggest fear is, you know, obviously my family and friends are in a different country, but I don't want to spread it to, you know, the other patients, the families, the coworkers that I'm here with too, right? And so if I get it, you know, that's one thing. I just don't want to spread it to anyone else. Right. And so, you know, I was very blessed that it came back negative, but it just kind of speaks to maybe some of the things that healthcare workers are having to do. You know, it's a very challenging time. And I'll tell you what, I think the fall is going to get a little bit interesting too, because that's normally when we see flu season, RSV season for kids.
I was going to say, do you think that there's probably going to be a spike like there was earlier this year in the winter time?
Yeah. And I think just naturally, I mean, you know, respiratory season always seems to be fall and winter. And I think that there's a really good chance that we could, you know, in combination with that too, right? And there's other complications too, right? It's not just this virus. It's okay, what are other environmental factors going on, right? I mean, in California, for instance, we get a lot of wildfires. You know, if there's a population that is, you know, has breathing issues to begin with, and now we've got all the smoke and then COVID, you know, those aren't good foundations to, you know, having a successful outcome for people too, right? So we really have to be careful. And so, you know, I know a lot of people are against wearing masks, but I did read a study the other day too that said, you know, if 80% of people wore masks for 6 weeks in this country, we could almost reduce COVID to about 8% of what it is now. And it's like, oh man, like 6 weeks just wearing a mask. Like, I think that's a very reasonable thing. You know, I think that when people are making a fuss about going into another store, you know, and then being asked to wear a mask, like if you're capable to go into another store, you should be capable of wearing a mask. I would hope, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many different options too. You can get your groceries delivered, and you can have a family or friend drop things off for you. Like, I try and, you know, sympathize and empathize with a lot of people's concerns, but I just think when you're looking at trying to do what's, you know, the greatest good for the greatest number of people, I think that we have to, again, make health a priority here, which I hope that we can do. I'm thankful that California's, I think, been much more progressive when it comes to, you know, being safe with masks. Obviously, our numbers are high, but we have 40 million people here. It's double the second most populated state of New York. Like, we're going to see a lot of cases with a lot of testing and such a large population in such a dense area. But, you know, we really have to be aggressive, I think, in trying to handle this thing.
I think some of the issues that people were having with the whole mask thing, and I'm not gonna lie, myself included to a certain extent, you know, like there's times where I see people who are working out, they're running, they're physically running, they're doing CrossFit or push-ups, pull-ups, whatever, but they're still wearing that mask, and I think that's what the issue that some people were having too. And by the way, I'm in no way, shape, or form expert when it comes to masks or anything like that. I'm very much a simpleton when it comes to this. So if anything I say comes out naive, I'm just not a professional. But
That's all right. You learned that from me.
but I think the issue was that people were not feeling sick, right? They're saying, you know, I don't feel any symptoms. No one in my family are having any of the symptoms. Why do I need to wear the mask if I'm if I'm going outside or even to the store? I get it; it is for protection, but I think what the other big thing is that it was a very big confusion when everything started, right? Because it went from surgical masks, right, the normal ones that you would get, to the N95s, to cloth, to a plethora of different masks. Like, I even saw online people were covering their faces with goddamn
Probably diapers or whatever. Who
diaper,
knows?
yeah,
But
crazy
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Oh man, I agree with you. I think there's been a large inconsistency with information. I think a lot of people have just kind of thrown up their hands and say, I don't know what to believe. And I think that has been an issue. I think there's no denying that. Like, there hasn't necessarily been a clear course of action with how we need to approach this. It's close things down, it's open things up. You know, half the country is closed down, and then people in Florida are you know, living their best life on the beaches, and you know, and I'm thinking, like,
Florida
okay,
isn't even a state. That's a total different country, man.
yeah. I yeah. Anyways, that's another podcast. But you know, I think for us too, what I wish we would have done is, I think if we were going to do this lockdown, I think it should have been, you know, unified across the entire country at the exact same time. You know, if I'm a small business in California and I'm locking down, and other parts of the country aren't, and they're spreading it and we're doing it, like, why are we sacrificing our businesses here when other people aren't doing the same? I think if we would have done this all at the same time, I think we would have gotten a lot more traction and stuff. So I think it just hasn't been working. And then while other states are starting to realize that they needed to you know, kind of hunker down, and then ones that were locked down are now opening up because they're saying, look, we've been locked down for, you know, 3, 4, 5 months. Our businesses are going to go under if we don't. Like, I just feel like there was such a missed opportunity, and hindsight is always 2020. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's much easier to look back and say, you know, what went wrong and everything. But I really do think that would have been something that could have gone right. And as for the masks and stuff in public, you know, the inconsistency with what people were being told, I think, is absolutely, you know, it's people are just like, I don't know what to believe. You know, one minute it's this, I believed you then, and then all of a sudden it's this, I believed you then, and now it's like, okay, like, do you know what you're talking about? Like, now I don't even know. And so I can absolutely see people being like, I don't know, I'm going to take this in my own hands, because I don't believe what's going on. But what I can say is, and this is just, I mean, science is, you know, the whole idea of whether this COVID-19 is, you know, it's a droplet or airborne or whatever the case may be. wearing a mask, it's a lot of it is, when we talk, sometimes we'll spit a little bit of saliva, things like that. Like the whole idea of the mask is to prevent you from, being able to spread some of those droplets onto other people too. So there is immediate, benefit from doing it from that standpoint. It's not saying because it's not in, if it's not an N95, obviously you're still going to breathe in things that are sitting in the air, but we can really reduce what is simply being spread by just wearing a mask like that. And you know what, if you're outside and it's sunny out and you're 6 feet away from other people, I really, from a lot of the research that I've seen, it does take a while to be able to contract it. Like you have to be, almost in like a contained area, talking to someone quite closely for it to really be able to spread. Like if you're running down the street and you're always 6 feet apart from people, the likelihood of it spreading even without a mask is probably quite low, So I think it's just kind of pick and choose, when it's safe to do so. But the reality is, look, people are fed up. They want to get out, they want to socialize, but we have to do it the safest way possible if we want to overcome this. I mean, 500,000 people have died already. Like we gotta figure something out, but it's tough. It's tough.
And I think that's the other thing too, like because I know there was stuff all over the internet, and Lord knows the internet doesn't lie, right? But people were people were putting out, when New York at the time was the epicenter. Everyone's dying over there. They're saying that people were dying so fast that they're just throwing bodies into a huge, massive grave. Now they're saying that stuff is being posted online, and then you start hearing numbers like you just said right now. 500,000 people are wiped out. I think that's also playing on the quote unquote normal person psyche. How is it that 500,000 people are dead, but yet there's still people walking around outside having their, living their best life? How is that possible? Is it from the mask? Is it from COVID? Is it a government conspiracy? Was this man-made? Was this, there's so many different avenues of questions with this particular topic that it's, I know it's difficult to answer. It's even difficult to even ask. But what do you think, as far as numbers, are they accurate in your professional opinion?
Yeah, I mean, there was a state the other day that I can't remember if it was Texas, but they had adjusted how they categorize COVID cases or COVID deaths. And then just by doing that, there was an instant 12% spike, I believe, in their numbers and stuff too. So it's tough to say exactly, the consistency of how things are being recorded. But, I was under the impression earlier on, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but, I think with some of how cases were being categorized when people were dying was, if you died of another cause, but you had COVID, it was being listed as a COVID death. Like, let's say if you, died in a car accident, but you were COVID positive, well, the cause of death was COVID. Like that's how things were being reported and stuff like that too. And that was not from, an academic journal. That was just from, a Google News search too. So don't take my word for that. But, those are things that I have come across too. So I think people start seeing that, and then they see, okay, well, how serious or how legitimate is this as well, right? And so that's challenging. I think the numbers are, it's also tough though, because not everyone's getting tested as well too,
True.
So if we were to test every, American, how many people would actually have it? I mean, the numbers would probably be a lot higher than what they are. I'm sure a lot of people have actually come into contact with COVID and maybe have shown no symptoms, right? There's two different tests you can get done. You can obviously get the swab, which will tell you if you actively have COVID or not, but you can also get blood work done. That'll tell you if you've developed the antibodies towards, COVID-19, which will show you not necessarily if you currently have it or not, but if you've come into contact with it. And so that's another indicator as well, where I know people who said, I don't remember ever coming into contact with COVID. I don't remember ever feeling sick, but they had the blood work that came back as they had the antibodies for it, which would have indicated that they likely had come into contact with it as well too. So that's the other thing. And going back to the previous question about, with why do I need to wear a mask if I don't have symptoms and stuff too, That's the issue, is that it takes sometimes up to 2 weeks to show the symptoms as well too. So while you might not have symptoms, you could actively be spreading it across to other people. And the other thing is, there's a lot of immunosuppressed people, a lot of people that are at higher risk. So when you think of people that have, suppressed immune systems, such as older adults or, children especially kids under the age of 1, they're very immunosuppressed, or people who have had organ transplants, right? Like they're taking medication to lower their immune system so they don't reject a new organ. Well, they're much more likely to get a virus or bacteria or illness that, may not affect you or I that much, but it could kill them. So when we talk about building immunity or herd immunity, a lot of it really is to, to protect us, but it's also to protect the people that aren't able to actually get a vaccination, that aren't able to do a lot of those things too. So.
Yeah.
Hang on. I got a question before you guys keep talking.
Go ahead.
I had to listen to everything, but way back in the beginning when Brennan started talking, the most interesting thing that I caught was the fact that your guys' age group, 17 to late 40s, right? You guys are probably the most essential at this point. So you guys are going to come in contact and be the most at high risk in general, whatever type of work you do.
Mm-hmm.
But at one point, when you started talking about that patient that you had to assist and you brought back to life, whether it was a COVID related or just a regular flatline or anything like that, and listening to you talk, you obviously are passionate about what you do. And at the same time, I hear the young man who's adventurous, likes the rush, likes the activity of normal life. So listening to both of you guys' talk, there's one thing that I lack of now because I'm such a homebody. But when you're standing at that doorway, what did Brennan tell the RN, and how much of it was instinct or just immediate reaction when you had to make that decision to go help? Was it the professional, or was it I'm not calling you a naive young individual, but was it confidence? Okay, I know I'm going to be all right, or screw it. If I'm going to do it, this is the path I chose.
No, for sure. And I think honestly, for me, it was kind of like, I think my approach when I was standing at that door, it was obviously a very split-second decision. I mean, as you know, if you've got a patient who isn't breathing and doesn't have a pulse, every second counts, right? Every second that you wait is the chances of bringing someone back are slowly dwindling too. But when I sit at the door and I saw my friend there, and I saw that patient just dusky and not moving and and then I saw his mom too crying in the bedside cot beside.
Jeez.
And that, I looked at that and I think for me it was just, this is something I got to do. I gotta jump in there. You know what I mean? I'm willing to take that risk, to try and help save this kid's life and stuff like that too. And it's just one of those situations. I felt like, okay, like I think being in my age group too, I'd like to think that I'm somewhat healthy, but I have read a lot of stories about people who are very fit and they've died from COVID too. Like it's a very serious thing and it's going to affect everyone differently too. But I think at that moment, it was just, for me, it just felt like the right thing to do and something that we had to do. And I'm happy I did it. And I think that I really feel like, that test coming back negative was like this, maybe like higher power, just like because you did this, we'll give you this one. We gave you the Raptors gold ring last year, and we'll give you this break this year. But so that was good. That was good. But I mean, I expect there's gonna be more moments like that. And it's just gonna have to be like, it's just gonna have to be one of those things where we just have to continue to kind of rise to the occasion. But it just also, and after that day, it kind of got me thinking too, like, it kind of almost made me upset too, because and then I think about, all the people who maybe think it's a conspiracy or think it's not real or, aren't taking it seriously. And it's like, okay, like, how many people are going to be exposed to this, or how many people might die from, trying to, put their lives in the line to try and maybe help others. because of, these maybe selfish acts, I guess. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of deaths I think that are going to be preventable and stuff like that too. So, I mean, I had a whole lot of emotions. I had a lot of time to think about that. It was like first thing in the morning. And, I mean, it's tough. It was tough, but yeah, to answer the question at that time, it felt like the right thing to do. It felt like the right thing to do. And I mean, yeah, again, when I saw him and I saw his mom, I mean, you gotta jump in there.
Yeah, the mom card would have.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
no,
have questioned it either. I would
yeah.
have jumped and done it. But again, like I said, you guys, your profession, you guys are the you guys are head of the pack. You guys are hopefully. This profession is definitely something that any country or any civilization needed. The awareness, the assistance, the taking care of, the responsibility, the passion to continue to learn, all that stuff. I mean, is there an end for what Brennan wants to do? What is your end game? What is your plaque on the wall gonna read when you finally retire?
Oh, man, that's a good question.
He has a few of those.
Yeah. Oh man. For me right now, I've mulled over this a few times, man. My dream actually, before I came down to the US, my dream was to take the experience and expertise that I have working in the public system, go down and get the experience and expertise in the private system. And I was hoping to kind of take both of those, put it together, the pros and cons of each, because I don't think there's a lot of people that are doing that, and to try and perhaps work up into maybe a political position or administration or management. But I feel like that is kind of where I would like to do, I think, or where I would like to go, having the opportunity to kind of make, very impactful decisions that I think could help improve the lives of people either in Canada or the US or across the world. That's what I want to do. For me anyways, I'm a big believer in investing in the health and education of your country, your people. And, I strongly believe that a healthy and educated population is what drives an economic engine. I don't think it does well when people are not able to access healthcare, or people are having, insurmountable amounts of debt add up and they're financially in trouble. I think we have to, continue to kind of help people become healthy, stay healthy, and prevent them from becoming ill or getting diseases or anything like that too. So I think for me, if I could try and be a part of something that focuses, maybe our approach to healthcare from more of a reactive treatment-based approach to a preventative, proactive approach, I think that's where the future of healthcare should be. And I think that's where it needs to go, not only financially for people, but I just think for the health and well-being of everyone, across the world too. So that, and then, probably hang out with my boy Drizzy and JB in LA or something like that too. And just by then probably have maybe our 5th or 6th, Toronto Raptor rings, and maybe the Edmonton Oilers will have a couple of rings by then too. So we'll see. Maybe Connor McDavid and I might be hanging out, but we'll see. Yeah.
Well, I hope you achieve all that, man, and I hope it at some point, you'll be able to enjoy just a simpleton life as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you're on your way.
Man, I appreciate that. I'll tell you what, I love country music. I love going to concerts. I had my country mega ticket. I was ready to go see my my boy, Tim McGraw and all these guys and stuff. So there's a lot of catching up to do once things kind of settle down. But I truly, my message here is that I'm blessed and very thankful to be here in the US. It's been a dream come true, something that I've wanted to do for over 6 years now. And even through this COVID situation too, I think it's just going to make everything that much more rewarding and enjoyable once we get through this thing together, which we will.
It's unfortunate too, because like you said earlier, California does offer all that. And we have some great, right now is peak concert time, but there's a lot of festivities that had to be canceled. So just, if you can hang on tight and hold on and hopefully all those come around again, and you'll have one hell of a spring and summer next year.
Yeah.
I got my Beach Boys album ready to go, and California Girls. I'll be heading down to LA real soon, so it'll be good. Yeah.
So taking another turn, and we're gonna step off of the COVID train now.
Yeah,
dude, your Instagram page.
Is that your car? Is that a BMW?
It is my car. It is, man. So I'll tell you what. So for me, I gotta charge the old phone here for a sec. So I'm gonna move locations here too. We got the old Tennessee whiskey. We're supporting everyone here.
Of course.
Yeah, that's my car. So I'll tell you what. When I first, after graduation, I had, like my parents refused to pay for my school, and I didn't get approved for student loans, and so I had to work like 3 jobs when I was in school, and I went from like night shift to go to class to clinical. Like it was crazy. So when I graduated and I was working 3 12-hour shifts a week, a lot of people were like, "Oh, I don't want to work full time." I'm like, now I only got to work full time. I was doing that and school. Like this isn't enough. Yeah. So I started working more, and I loved that Z4. So I actually had a photo of that as the background on my phone, and that was like, okay, like we got to keep hustling, we got to keep working. And then, once we can, 3 summers ago, I ended up getting it. There was an older couple that had it. They put on 20,000 miles on it, and it was in Edmonton, man. You can drive it for 2 months out of the summer. And so I was able to get it for, a good price. And so that's been a lot of fun. So it was a no-brainer when it was between that and a RAV4 down here in California. So I was like, I got to go with the Z4 top down.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I wouldn't even consider it anything other than that, especially with no children and no messy back seats. Perfect.
So when I'm a soccer dad someday, then maybe I'll get the RAV4. But yeah.
So my serious question is, when is that album dropping, dude? Because that picture that you posted, the one that I commented on, man, that was, top notch. Shiny shoes, no socks, all white, everything. Like, dude, you're stunning.
Chris, man, I'll tell you what. I reached out to Entourage, but I haven't heard anything back yet, too. So if there's anyone that's got that connection, I feel like I might be a good fit on there too. But yeah, I knew I hesitated to put that one up. I had that one in the queue for a while. I was like, all right, today's the day. We're doing this little, Friday Entourage type photo S thing. But I went there with my scrubs because I wanted to do the shot with the San Francisco skyline. And he's like, man, like, what other outfits you got in the back there? I was like, well, it's all white thing and black shoes. Like, dude, your car's all white and
whip
black.
It out.
Like, whip it out.
Well, I got this.
Yeah. I was like, just sitting here for a rainy day occasion. Like, no, I had this outfit pre-planned. Yeah.
So that whole Instagram page, is that, because I saw bits and pieces here and there, some of your stories. Mm-hmm. Is that more of a blog, or is that like what is that as far as for nursing?
Yeah, man. So the Instagram page itself is it's a mix of just kind of like who I am, and then trying to, I guess, engage with people. I started the blog about just over a month ago, and the whole idea of it kind of started as this blog to promote and support travel nurses. And I quickly realized that if I was only supporting the travel nurses, I was eliminating like a large demographic of people in healthcare too. So since then, I continue to support travel nurses and feature, one a week, but I also have a lot of content that supports nursing students, nurses, new graduates. And then I also bring in a different manager a week, and they talk about, what kind of qualities they look for in a nurse when they hire, as well as some interview tips. And then I bring in a staffing recruiter as well too. So no one's trying to sell anything on my site. I'm not monetary by any means. I just try and bring in people and voices that I feel like can help support the nursing and medical community as well too. And I've kind of linked up with some other nurse entrepreneurs that I think are quite inspiring as well too. So I try and do like little interviews with them and just to hopefully motivate people too, because I know, like myself, especially during COVID, not knowing anyone, I was like, I got some free time in my hands. I got to do something. So that's when the idea of the blog kind of came out. And for me, it's been a lot of fun. I've been able to connect with a lot of cool people across, US and Canada and some people from overseas as well too. But the whole idea of it is for me to just try and give back to this profession that's given a lot to me, and to try and connect people and hopefully support them as well too. For me to come to the US, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to get a visa, a social security number, a state license. It was a grueling
Oh, that's right. 'Cause
situation.
you have a whole,
Man,
it's a whole process.
that's a whole nother podcast, 2-part
Yeah.
podcast, and 3 hours each. And
Yeah.
so my whole thing was like, man, if I can streamline this for other people, then that would make me happy, just to make it a little bit easier for the next person. And so I've also got a post that I try and support Canadians that also want to travel nurse too. I think the US is one of the greatest places out there. It's so beautiful, all the way from Alaska to inland to Hawaii, and there's so much to do and so much to explore, and see that the possibilities are endless. And in a private healthcare system, the quality of facilities that you can work in, and it's nothing compares to it. So I truly think it's one of the best professions for being able to do all of that. So I'm trying to encourage people to pick that as a career, and trying to help them maybe even realize a dream that they had no idea even existed too. So
Yeah.
Well, I hear you. I mean, you're definitely advocating for traveling and stationary nurses, but something just popped into my head. I'm assuming from state to state, are all laws the same? Are all in regards to are there certain things you got to learn from state to state regarding to the healthcare system?
you know what? The licensing boards are all
Right.
different. Like California has its own licensing board, but now there's this new thing. It's called a nursing compact license. So if you live in one of those states, there's just over 30 states now. And if you have lived in one of those states for over a year, and that's your primary residence, it now, under this one license, allows you to work in any of those 30 some states without having to get an individual license, in each of them too. And especially during, I think, a time especially with COVID, I mean, to be able to have nurses go to the areas of most need, where initially it was New York, now it's California and Florida and Texas. If you had to wait for nurses to get a license for 6 months, and then all of a sudden it's now moved to another location, like, that's a problem, right? So I think there's being a lot of work done to try and help migration of nurses and make their ability to work in different states a little bit easier. As for scope of practice, it's quite similar everywhere you go. The biggest differences are just the individual hospital policies and procedures that you just have to touch up on and make sure that you're up to date on as well. Coming from Canada, things were obviously a little bit more different than it would be going from state to state, but at the end of the day, we're all getting a very similar degree, even if it's from a different institution, and a lot of the learning will continue to happen while you're in the workplace too. So I found, for me, sometimes it's a little bit of you learn, and then you have to almost unlearn and then relearn again when you go from place to place to place. But yeah, overall, it's been fantastic. I actually have my Tennessee license too, so that would be another place on the map for me. I fell in love with Nashville. I think Nashville is one of the greatest places on
I heard
this planet
Nashville's
too.
great,
I
man.
heard a lot of good
So
things.
much
Yeah.
fun. So much fun. Yeah.
There in Atlanta, or even the Carolinas. But anyway, sorry.
Well,
no, are you military background at all, or just any?
My grandpa was in the Canadian military, but and so World War II. But that's the extent of like my military background too. But I do feel a great sense of patriotism towards Canada and both the US. And as you know, just about every war that Canada and the US have been a part of, they've always been a part of it together too. It's, I think, one of the most important relationships. We have the largest demilitarized border, in the world between us, and we've always needed to, and we'll need to continue to support each other moving forward as well too. So, so I always try and remind people here too. I'm like, don't forget about us Canadians, man. We're always there to, we might be looked at as like this, peacekeeping country and stuff like that too. But, I think the country does a good job of standing for, what they think is right too. And we spent a lot of time in the Middle East kind of alongside the Americans, and doing what we felt was right to, try and bring peace and stabilize a very, I guess, unstabilized part of the world. And I, especially right now too, I think the big war is a war on terrorism as well too. And I think that more than ever, the free countries have to, unify and work together to do it. I will say the patriotism down in the US, I find much more evident than in Canada. I wish in Canada we were a little more patriotic, waving flags, and it just, 4th of July is this was my first one down here, but it was cool, man. I was even downtown San Jose, and people were firing off fireworks out of like their apartments and stuff, like things I'd never seen. Like in Canada, it'd be like waving like this little like, you know, flag and stuff. And I would just love to see more of it. You know, I think we got 2 of the best countries. Like let's celebrate that together, kind of thing. You know, so
that's cool, man. So with your blog and your Instagram page, did you or have you thought about doing anything like a vlog, like a video log, or even a podcast?
Or YouTube
channel. You know what, man?
Or a YouTube channel.
Yeah. So I started a YouTube channel. I've done just like a couple interviews on there too. There was one with her name is Lauren, and she does one-on-one virtual yoga for healthcare professionals too and stuff. So again, like not monetary, I got nothing out of it, but I thought that'd be a cool thing for a lot of healthcare providers, especially right now with, you know, the stress of COVID. So I kind of wanted to put that out there for some people. And then I did an interview with Florida International University last week. So I just put a video of that up there too. But I'd love to figure out a way to kind of get more video and interactive content too. I think, you know, it's great writing things down and putting up written posts, but only, you know, that's only going to reach a certain demographic. I think the more that you're able to get some, you know, video content or audio content, that's going to help you grow too. But I enjoy talking, you know, and
hey, man,
and doing things like that too. So
and you're very well spoken. Yeah. Thank you.
No, he's very disciplined. That's why I asked about the whole military. He's very centered and disciplined. You can tell
that's from growing up in an Italian household right there.
Oh no, yeah, I know. I'm sure his mom.
Let me guess.
She's Italian as well.
The wooden spoons.
The wooden spoons, man. I'll tell you what. This one time. Oh yeah, man. I got spanked with a few wooden spoons. And then there would be new wooden spoons, and I realized because the other ones kept breaking from, you know, getting spanked and all that.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, one time my mom, she was 12 years old, and she, you know, I mean, when her parents, you know, first came, you know, they first moved from Italy. They're from Florence. You know, it was a big thing in Canada. You want to be, you know, as an immigrant, you want to be very respectful of the culture, and you don't want to disrespect the new area that you're in. So I think my mom was 12 years old, and she snuck out one time, and she tried sneaking back in the house. And as she closed the door and turned around, her dad had a loaded shotgun right between her eyes and said, "Don't you ever effing show up late to my house again." She was 12 years old. So if you think that didn't just disappear when she became a parent and I was the firstborn, like, you're wrong, man. So that's maybe where the discipline comes in. Yeah. There's no loaded shotguns, but there's a lot of
oh yeah,
it was like vocal shotguns.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
it set the foundation of life, right, Brennan?
Yes, sir.
The verbal punishment alone, man. Those words hit hard.
They do. They don't go away. The bruise from a spoon on your right ass cheek, that goes away. But the words, they just.
And the worst is having a wooden spoon with a hole right in the middle of it.
I didn't get that one.
I got that a few times.
My mom doesn't see this, but yeah.
Yeah, that was a few times.
And I find that, you know, I moved down here, and she's still trying to parent me from back in another country too. I'm like, Mom, I'm getting a tattoo. You are not getting a tattoo. I was like, Mom, I'm in a new country. I'm 29 years old.
Yeah,
you know, or whatever. It's just like,
hey, it doesn't go away. My mom's 68, my dad's 72, and I'm 50, and they still consider me the baby.
Yeah.
You still get sent to your room, hey? Yeah.
Oh man, at any time that tongue lashing in Spanish or in English, it all feels the same. It's like, God damn, I've raised kids. I've gotten through the shit, and I feel like I'm 10 again when I get disciplined or spoken to, you know? Yeah. That doesn't go away.
Well,
but that's
Brennan,
love,
man, thank you so much for being on. This was really awesome, dude. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
No, thanks, guys. Man, I had a lot of fun speaking with you today, and love the work that you guys do. Your podcast is awesome, and I'm excited just to kind of continue to be a follower and see where you guys can take off with this thing too.
Thank you.
No, that's great. You know, like I was telling Jim, you know, this whole thing, like you said, it's not a monetary thing. And when he started doing this, I was fully supportive. And when he asked me to be a part of this, it's just another thing of, as a parent, you know, you want to see your children do something, you know, and me being a part of it and seeing how he has grown and interacting with folks and living in an environment that you two live in and having the day-to-day and still see that he's my little firstborn kid. Yeah, it's a reward, man. It's a reward. So kudos to you. That Italian discipline is working off, is paying off.
I got one question for you guys though.
Yeah, absolutely. Shoot.
How good was that shot going to the finals?
Oh
when
my!
Kawhi, that
Did you
buzzer
say we're
beater
running
when
out
the
of
ball
time?
was
Did you say we
back
ran
there.
out of time?
I think we are running out of time. We're almost
a 2-hour limit.
Did you see
So-
Drizzy went nuts?
So
Like
what was
on
it?
Nick Nurse's shoulders and
So is he part owner or co-owner of the Raptors? I mean, I understand being
no one knows what he does. He's just there, and we love it. And but you know, they actually had
He's
to
from
tell
the
him to, like,
six,
kinda,
man. He
from the
puts
six,
in
man.
the money for it. So
Every night, man, you see him. He's sitting on the CN Tower, just writing new music, and he's looking after us, man. So we got good music up there too. You know, I think from Toronto, that area, you got Drake, you got The Weeknd, Justin Bieber.
oh, you got
The
everybody,
girls.
man.
The girls love Shawn Mendes, and my personal favorite from Alberta though, Nickelback. I absolutely love Nickelback. People hate Nickelback.
That's a controversial statement, sir.
Hey man, my friend's mom used to babysit Chad Kruger when he was a little kid. So
No
we
way.
grew up in the
Really?
same little, yeah.
I agree. They give Nickelback some shit, but I listen to them. That's just like, all right, one of my guilty pleasures is Kelly Clarkson. I'll listen to Kelly Clarkson. I have no problem listening to her.
Sometimes you got to spread your wings and learn how to fly. And
Yeah.
behind these hazel eyes and all that.
That's a good.
Exactly. Well, this was fun, guys. I appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you, Brennan. Hopefully we'll see you again.
Yeah.
Sounds good, guys. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, and
you too,
looking
man.
forward to watching what you guys do next. All right.
You too.
Bye for now.
All right,
Hey,
guys.
hold on. Before you go, is there anything that you would like to promote as far as your Instagram page or anything?
Hey, man, I think even just the Instagram page would be great. Yeah, I think that would be awesome, and then from there people can see the website and stuff like that too. But
all right,
yeah, I would love that.
I'll be sure to put that up right here for you. All right, man.
Well, I just
boss,
hope
appreciate it.
out of this, the simplicity of him saying, wear a mask for your own
safety,
reasoning, and protecting and looking out for one another. I mean, you're taught to look out for thy neighbor, right? So you make it to a certain point of life, and you appreciate things. And if it's as simple as putting on a mask and just keeping a certain distance, it's not hard. Follow the damn directions.
Yeah, I agree.
Stay safe, man. I
too, guys.
Again, I greatly appreciate this. We greatly appreciate this, and
thank you for supporting his channel too, Brennan.
It, man.
Thank you, man.
And this is a lot of fun. So I really appreciate you reaching out and wanting me to be part of this. So
absolutely.
No, I was excited, man. I was sitting there. He's like, "Dad, do you have any questions?" I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna go off what you sent, and the best thing for me is to get the feel." It's like, all right. So it took me a while to ask that one question, but I had to let you guys speak. So no, this was great.
It's good.
Thanks.
It felt just natural, not going off necessarily like a script or anything. Like this is the most laid back I could have possibly been in a conversation.
Yeah.
Same with us, and that's what that's important for him.
And that's the whole point of it. And now typically, we've done a few interview podcasts like this, but typically what it is also is I'll tell a story associated with whatever it is that you do. So the next time you come back, though, I have a pretty interesting story for you.
Sounds good, man. Looking forward to it. I'd come back anytime, so hit me up.
All right,
awesome, man. Thank
you.
All right.
Stay safe.
Okay, guys,
stay safe, guys.
All right. Go Golden State.
Don't start
we got that trophy, man.